Little Mister. My mama don't want nothing to go to waste or no one to go around without a goodly amount of loving. That's why we wasn't surprised when she bring home that little wiener dog that started all the trouble. I swear, Your Honor, on a whole stack of Bibles like that black one you got up there, it was that what started it all off. Don't think I'm fixing to blame my mama. No, sir. It ain't my mama's fault any more than it's her fault Cliff Claymore don't know that thin line between drunk and sober excepting in his rear view mirror. No, sir, I ain't blaming nobody. I'm just telling you the whole story. The truth and nothing but the truth like that woman there had me swear. It started on a Tuesday. I know that for a fact because my mama been cleaning the Andersons' house on a Tuesday ever since I remember. And every Tuesday, she bring home something them Andersons didn't want no more, like maybe flowers that still had a few more days on them. Once it was a perfectly good sweeper what just needed a belt and some oil. There's plenty of Tuesdays all stacked up in my memory, Judge, and there was a lot of shit stacked up at our house that just started out in their big house. Beg pardon, sir, that shit just came out on accident. That gal from the public defender's done warned me about that. As I was saying, my mama brung home that dog. She say they don't want no more 'cause it done bark all the time and pee on their carpet. Well, that's nice, Mama, I says, real polite. She raised me to be polite. But what's going to stop that dog from barking and peeing on our floor? I'll be training him, she says. And then she says to the dog, ain't that right, little mister? You could tell that dog just loved my mama. He looked up at her and let out one yip, smiled a big old wiener dog smile and wagged his curly Q tail. Next, he hiked up his one back paw and peed on my shoe. That's the way it's going to be, Your Honor. That dog done figured out day one which side his bread was buttered on. He got nothing but smiles from my mama. I just told you what he got from me. You already know about my troubles 'cause the police told me you got my whole file, Your Honor, and I do apologize. I had me a mean temper back when I drank, but I ain't had a drop in 4 years, God's honest truth. I wasn't my nature to walk away from nothing, and I got a scar to this day right here on my forehead from that bouncer's ring down at the Voodoo Lounge. Don't get me wrong, I ain't no saint, but I ain't drinking none either. I've been going to the meetings. I ain't hit no one what didn't deserve it in a long time. Cliff Claymore will vouch for that, Judge. So here it was a Friday, what you called the day in question. I was just coming out of the Quick Pick with a pack of smokes. I always get them there because they's a nickel cheaper. And there was Cliff Claymore setting in his Buick Riviera in the parking lot. He had his nose stuck in the ashtray, running change around in there with his pointing finger. He was moving his lips, so I knows he was counting. I've been there, done that, Your Honor. Cliff, he worked real hard laying asphalt, but his paycheck, making all them driveways for all the Wendy's and such, but his paycheck don't last from one Friday to the next. That cheap so-and-so Franklin, what he works for, don't hand out the checks until quitting time on Friday. So Cliff was fishing for change, and I wasn't doing nothing that couldn't be interrupted. I opened the passenger door and hopped in. Smoke? I offered him a cancer stick. Hell yes, you see me digging for nickels, he says. Nickels don't buy squat, I told him. What we need is some dollars. I heard that, Cliff says, leaning back in his seat. He blowed the smoke out like he was smoking a cigar. I don't know what's worse, gas at $3 a gallon or smokes at $5 a pack. I heard that. We smoked a while, and then I remembered I had something to do for my mama. Cliff, I got to get myself over at the vet's office and pick up something. Cliff, he didn't need asking about a ride. He just started up the old Buick and backed her onto the street. There weren't no one but one vet in town, Doc Brown. We get there. I tell Cliff, I won't be a minute. And he says, okay by him, but do I have an extra 5 on me for a pint? I had a 20 of my mama's in my pocket earlier, before I got the smokes. Maybe so, I says. Depends on how much Doc gonna charge me. They got a little bell rings when you open the door at the vet's, but I swear I never understood why. Every time that bell rings, there's a bunch of dogs in the back just go to howling. The girl at the desk was setting bottles of shampoo in little rows like they was bowling pins, just waiting to get mowed down. "Steve Reich," I says. I did my arms like this, Your Honor, like I just laid a perfect hook ball on the lane, and I balanced there on one foot, just smiling, when that girl turned around and looked at me with her head cocked to the side like one of them TV commercial dogs. Like she was saying, "What the hell?" "Sorry, Judge, that's just how she looked." "You got something held from my mama," I says, real quick but polite. "Mrs. Bessie Fisher, that's my mama." "What is it?" she asks. "I don't rightly know," I says. She just said pick it up." The girl tilted her head again and clicked her pen against her teeth. "Wait here," she says. She opened a door to the back, and them dogs started howling again. I didn't hear no bell this time, but maybe it was one of them silent bells, just for dogs. Right by the desk, there was a cork board with pictures of dogs on it, and I was wondering if just anyone could bring a picture of their dog and tack it up there. I thought Mama would be proud to have a picture of little mister there. Maybe I'd surprise her and take one in there myself for her birthday or something. Then I got to noticing the writing under some of them pictures. Stud Service, AKC Champion. When I read what they was charging for them dogs for just a few minutes of their time, some of them dogs was getting $500 a shot. It was like a light bulb going off. Mama's dog had to have papers. Them Andersons wouldn't have had no mutt. I find the papers, I'd be in business. Wouldn't Mama be surprised when she seen all that money? That girl come out with a see-through pouch with something red and white inside. "Here's the sweater your mother ordered, Mr. Fisher." "A sweater for a dog? Now I've seen everything. That'll be $16.45 with tax." I felt my pocket for what was left of the money, what was left of the 20, knowing full well that after the smokes I only had a 10 and a 5. "Are you sure she didn't already pay for it since she ordered it special?" "I tell you what, I'll check with the doctor later. If she still owes, I'll send a bill." The girl sure was pretty, even if she did keep hitting her front teeth with that pen. I wondered if she ever got the wrong end up and inked her teeth. It didn't look like it. "Well, that'll be just fine, miss," I says. "By the way, what's the other name for a wiener dog?" "You mean the dachshund?" "That's it. Can you write that down on a piece of paper there?" She wrote it out nice and plain on a paper with "Flea Be Gone" printed at the top. Then I borrowed her pen and wrote Mama's phone number real big on the bottom and put stud fee, $300. I didn't want to be greedy. She just watched me write it all out and put it on the board. When I left there, she sat there at the desk with her head cocked, just tapping them teeth. It didn't take long for Cliff Claymore to catch my drift about the stud service. We was sitting in the Buick in my mama's driveway. I could hear that wiener dog just barking inside. "Hell, you gonna be rich, man," Cliff says. "Don't be forgetting your friends when you get flush, man." "Oh, I ain't gonna get that rich, not Trump rich. I aim to be the same as I am now. Just have me all the smokes I want and a pizza now and then what didn't come out of a freezer." That dog was up in the picture window, standing on the back of the couch, pawing the glass, barking. I wondered how he'd look in that sweater, probably like a Christmas candy cane. "I got to get in there and find those papers," I tell Cliff. Then I remembers the change in my pocket. I pull out a 10. "Here, Cliff, get yourself something and come on back. You can help me look." First thing that dog do is try and squeeze through the screen door and get out front. I push him back in the house with my foot gentle-like, and then he grabs my shin with them sharp black claws and pee on my sock. This keep up, I'm going to have to wear my old army boots. Mama keeps her important papers in a big wood box on the kitchen counter that says the Andersons, Bob and Peggy, on the side in burned in letters. Them dog papers wasn't in there. They wasn't in her bedroom either or under the couch cushions. I was on my knees looking under the couch when they called. They wanted to know all about the wiener dog and his papers and stuff. I tells them people sitting over there, Your Honor, that's them, the plaintiffs. I tell them all about the dog, and I tell them, yes, but I'm going to need their money up front. I wanted them to know it wasn't born yesterday. They say it's going to depend on if the dogs like each other and about his pedigree. Now, I didn't know what part his pedigree was, but whatever it was, I'm sure it was in just dandy shape. Like I says before, them Andersons don't buy no junk. It was Cliff's idea to put the candy cane outfit on him. Cliff has him some good ideas when he's drinking. I used to myself back in the day. I know what you're thinking, Judge, but I didn't touch a drop. Cliff done finished off the bottle before he got back to Mama's house anyway. Said he didn't want to tempt me none, being as I was quit and all. I sweared to tell the truth, and I am. That wiener dog didn't much like that outfit. Cliff and I both had to hold him down to get it snapped. I think that dog knowed it was Cliff's idea, because as soon as we was done, he bit Cliff on the ankle and peed on his shoe. He might have changed his opinion on Cliff when we got in the car. That dog did like riding in a car. He hopped up and down and stuck his head out the window and barked. His ears was flapping against his head so hard I thought he might knock his own brains out. I had to hold him on his back legs to keep him from flying out. We got there, and there was a chain-link fence like they said. We parked in the gravel, and first thing, their girl wiener dog comes running down the sidewalk, barking her fool head off. Mama's little mister was jumping up and barking too. So far, so good, I says to Cliff. He squeezed his eyes tight together and nodded. Cliff be feeling good. Bourbon do that. Won't you just hang out here, Cliff, and I'll be right back, I tells him. Truth be told, I think he was relieved. He got blood on his sock from earlier. I had a hard time holding on to little mister, 'cause he was fixing to get down and see that girl dog, but I wasn't about to let him do his business without cash on the barrel head, if you know what I mean, Judge. So I kept hold of him as best I could, him biting my fingers and scratching my belly while that girl dog nipped at my knees trying to get at him. That's when the screen door slammed back against the house and them people come running out. "Keep him away from our Petunia," they hollered. I was already holding him so tight his eyeballs was bugging out. "Howdy," I says. "This here's little mister." They scooped up their dog like they was a giant dust buster and motioned for me to come onto the porch. We sat there across from each other, holding dogs for dear life. "Well, she certainly seems to be interested," she says. "She'd be interested in a German Shepherd at this point," he says. "We should have picked out a stud before she went into heat." "Well, guess who was just too busy watching football to do that?" she asked. I figured this was one of them ongoing things, Your Honor, so I asked if we can just settle up before little mister do the deed. You'd have thought I had a gun to their heads. They start in about that pedigree again and ask for a bunch of papers, and when I tell them he my mama's dog and I couldn't find no papers, they get downright nasty. They trash little mister, call him a mutt, say his eyes is too close to his nose and his legs is too long. You know there ain't no love lost between me and that dog, Judge, but it's one thing to have trouble in the family, and it's something else for strangers to sound off like that. I squeezed little mister even tighter and stomped down them steps toward the Buick. That she-devil Petunia chased us all the way. "We out of here," I says to Cliff, and I slammed the gate shut behind me. Cliff put her in gear to back out when Petunia pushed open the gate and run up to the car. "Don't squash her," I yells at Cliff. He slams on the brakes. Little mister jumps out the window right that second, and I grab for him and catch the sweater. He hangs there in midair for a second, and then he spins around like that girl in The Exorcist and hops right out of that candy cane thing. Before I can open the door, him and Petunia is going at it alongside the road. Petunia's daddy, while he comes flying off the porch swinging a metal baseball bat at little mister. He ain't got good aim, so he hits the gravel by his girl dog instead. She yelps, and them stuck-together dogs scoot underneath the Buick. Just for safety, I figure. They don't seem to care much about privacy. Then the wife, she starts smacking her husband in the chest with her fist, 'cause that's only how far up she can reach. And he turns around to swing at her, but breaks his swing at the last minute and hits the car instead. I could have told him that wasn't a smart thing to do when Cliff Claymore's been drinking, but nobody asked me. And then the man scoots underneath the car in the gravel trying to poke at them dogs with the bat. Cliff, he stretches his long arms up in the air like he's going to make a jump shot, and then he tosses me the car keys. "Open the trunk," he says. And I barely get it open when he drags the man out from under the car by his ankles. Cliff steps on the husband's bat hand, so he lets go, and then grabs him by the scruff of the neck and shoves him in the trunk. I ain't never seen so much banging in my life. The man's banging on the inside of the trunk, them dogs is banging underneath the car, and she's banging on the trunk lid. "Get out here if you know what's good for you, you good for nothing so-and-so," she be yelling at him like he could unlock it from the inside. I'd stayed in there too, I was him. After a while, them dogs was done, and little mister just crawls over and falls asleep on my shoe. Cliff Claymore let the husband out. The woman, she reached under the car and put Petunia in a carry pouch she make with the bottom of her shirt. I was just asking for what was due me when the woman go inside and call the police. No, Your Honor, I don't think they seen any humor in that. That's why they file them charges and done get me hauled in here like a criminal when it be me and little mister been wronged. They owes us $300. I got them papers now, and little mister, he did the deed. They got the pups to prove it.